Hey, this is Christiaan Hofman with Sport Naturel. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson. I got my Netherlands, my guy, my good friend, Christiaan Hofman. He's from Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson. I have my guy from Sport Naturel, my Netherlands friend, fellow coach, just the most playful, awesome gentleman you'll ever meet. And again, his coaching is above reproach. His name is Christiaan Hofman. And we had such an awesome, blessed conversation where we talked about really kind of being blunt and gently, playfully pushing our clients' buttons when it comes to coaching. And you can sometimes look at coaches like they shouldn't be blunt and they should really just kind of lean into what the coaching client needs and whatnot. But sometimes to get them that leveled up, to get them to really kind of open their eyes and say, what the hell did you just say to me? Sometimes the bluntness comes in, and Christiaan shares how he does that, but from a very playful manner. We'll just call it that, because I call him like my playful coach buddy. He's just fantastic. He's an author of a fantastic book, which I do have a giveaway at the end. So make sure you listen. And just, I'm so blessed. There's going to be somebody out there that needs to hear this. So please share it with them. If you like it, please subscribe to it or punch that alert button for the next episode that comes on. Or my sponsors and affiliates absolutely love that. So without further ado, from Sport Naturel, my good friend, Christiaan Hofman. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I have a really good friend that I immensely respect. He's from the Netherlands, but he's here not here, where I'll be this afternoon in the nice, cool state of Texas. My good friend, Christiaan Hofman. He's a martial artist, so we have that in common. And we talked, I probably talked his ear off. I asked him a bunch of questions. I'm probably going to re-ask him during this interview. But he's an author and a deep thinker. He's the author of a fantastic book, which I have a giveaway at the end. So make sure you stick here, called To Meet Yourself, Think for Yourself. He's also the founder of Sport Naturel. His work dives deep into the mind. He's not just obsessed. He's not passionate about it. He's obsessed with it. He's a playful button pusher, as he says, as a personal trainer and coach. Christiaan loves to push boundaries, but in a playful, meaningful way. He's all about shaking things up to unlock that potential. Again, he's a martial arts master. Christiaan's martial arts journey started at the age of 4 and never stopped. Over the years, he's practiced and taught various forms, combining discipline and flow. And he's also a counselor turned coach. He's worked with troubled teenagers and counseling in the counseling field, has shaped young minds as a physical education instructor in schools. His experience runs deep from the mental game to physical fitness. And I don't know why he's this kind of fan, but soccer fan, or like they probably call it over there, a football fan. No, I've actually been turning into a fan, as my squad knows out there. I do watch the Premier League now, but have a lot of fun. So Christiaan, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Oh, you instantly asked me a good question. Orange.
Orange.
And orange is stemming from the Netherlands.
It does. Yeah. The orange and black and white, right?
Yeah, red, white, and blue.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Why am I thinking orange? Blue. Okay, sorry.
And orange is our color for our jersey.
Gotcha. That's what it is. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I think with orange, we made the carrot orange. A lot of people don't know it. They think
really.
Yeah, a lot of people think the carrot is orange. Well, okay. we crossed some things and we made it orange.
Oh, really?
The world now knows it as orange.
Gotcha. What color was it before, brother?
Oh, it's like what you normally see, like the red, Bordeaux red, white.
Gotcha.
Stains. So yeah, we combine those things.
Well, so interesting. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, the orange is also, I think it has some vibrancy to it, some energy.
Yeah.
And I think I like that.
Orange is a fun color. That's what it literally, the reason why I ask kind of the colors, because I build a lot of your marketing. My team will build, I don't, they'll yell at me if I say I do. My team builds a lot of the marketing around your favorite color. And also there's a personality behind every person's favorite color, which helps me when I get to know you. You know what I'm saying? You are a fun person. So, but hey man, so let's get to this journey. Like, I know, like, both of our fathers were bouncers. We were both put into martial arts when we were super young ages. Like, you're my brother from another mother, right? You know what I'm saying? So like, tell me about this journey, man. Like how you started in the Netherlands and made your way to kind of middle state Texas.
Right. I started in the Netherlands. Of course, my parents are living there. And through all the circumstances that I was in, I thought I'm going to do something else. So first I went from a school project. I went to England and I was 16 years old. I went on the bike and we had to go on a boat. And eventually you immerse yourself in a different culture with the words you don't always understand, or you're not speaking it correctly.
Right.
And it's always a challenge. So
It's like housekeeping that we talked about earlier.
right, that thing, yes. And I write a little bit on it in my book because I really remember there was a day that I was laughed at. So I had long blonde hair. And I was like, okay, you're 16 years old. You're a little bit, you put yourself in a circumstance where it's like, oh, it's not comfortable for you. And they start laughing at you. So at that age, it's a little bit awkward. So the inside of I think I always had something that wants to go against something, just to mess up or to try to measure up. And I
challenge
think
yourself.
Yeah, challenge yourself.
Okay.
And I think it comes from my father too. But he also comes with a justification about himself, like what I say is law. Like as a bouncer, that it goes that way.
Right.
So when I was laughed at, and I didn't know what they meant, but they called me sissy the whole day. I didn't know what it meant, sissy.
Gotcha.
So I asked the guy who was teaching me at the time, I was like, what does it mean? Oh, it's a good word. Don't worry about it. I said, if it means something bad because everybody was laughing, then I take my hammer and I make sure like I'm going to hit something.
Right.
And I say it a little bit better in the book. But the thing is like, hey, if you are not honest with me and we cannot have a trustful relationship, there is a consequence to that.
Sure.
And I'm holding myself to that consequence. I can deliver. So I always grew with consequences and deliver upon those consequences. So that makes me in my work functional because in a lot of ways, if I set a certain, let's say, goal, and I think, okay, I have to get that goal, and how do I get there? It's with a certain consequence. So if I say I'm going to do it, and there's no way it's not going to happen, so I fulfill on it. And I think that propels me because later on in life, I went to Australia. I think, who am I? What am I doing? What do I stand for? So I've been in Australia for a year, backpacking and all around. And I found out basically what I was made of in a lot of difficult situations. I've been robbed, I've been beat up, I've been lost. A lot of things happen. It's all good. I mean, that makes you a little bit stronger because you're not always in a comfortable setting.
Right.
Now, and if you try to grow in an uncomfortable setting, eventually you have to grasp on something that is comfortable with inside of you and not that comes from outside of you.
Right.
And when I got that right, when I found out what that was, that made me strong, I guess, into difficult situations. So
wow. So you're saying that to kind of grow in kind of an uncomfortable situation, you dig deep inside you for a piece of comfort that helps you grow and overcome the uncomfortableness. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Right. And there's a lot of, I think, it's easy to make a mistake with that. Why? Because what you are grasping at, or what you try to scratch at, is your own identity. And an identity is still fluid. Now, if you look at identity, and this is where it goes off with a lot of people too, because you're going to mix it with character, with personality, and all what it's not. It's not your motivation. So if you identify yourself with a certain role, like I am a bouncer or I'm a teacher, and then eventually you become that role set. But below that, if you can scratch really to what you are, and that is what I'm doing with my clients, this is where your strength is. But the strength is also, your identity also means that you can always change. You can always like be more and widen yourself.
Yeah. Love
it. If you can't widen yourself, you become a little bit more narrow, but you're also going to focus on the narrow path of every role that you take on. So, hey, I am a podcaster. And what does a podcaster do? No, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But you never get out of that little realm. But a podcaster can also do from A to Z. or
Gotcha.
even alpha, delta, and omega. We can
Yeah.
expand even more. And if you understand that principle, you always want to grow. And that's what I try to do, because I didn't have it before. I didn't have a growth mindset. I had a
Right.
fixed mindset, right? It's how I grew up. It's a
Right.
blue collar family. You do what is told, and you execute, because that eventually you earn money with that.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
believe that, you can, and you probably earn some money with it. But is it to your best self? I mean, is
Yeah.
it to your own growth?
Are you leaning into your ultimate human potential, right? I mean, are you actually
Right.
doing that? I have a question for you. You mentioned consequences a few times. Can consequences be looked at in both a good and a bad light?
Always.
Okay, unpack that a little bit. Like, tell me what you mean by that, because that's what I was hearing, right? So there's good consequences and bad consequences, but let's go a little deeper on that, man.
Yeah. So if you set a consequence, that means you have a certain rule and routine set in place that you follow up to. And if it is not done how you want to follow it up, then eventually there's a consequence. Now, there's, of course, the normal life consequences, like you don't get what you want,
Sure.
you don't get what you strive for. But also, if you be a little bit harder on yourself, hey, if I cannot get this done, I'm not meeting the deadline, then my consequence is, and I did it to myself, I'm not going to park anything close to any grocery store or wherever I need to be. I will
Sure.
park at the end of the end.
Yeah.
So it was my consequence for myself. So I make myself walk.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a consequence in place for me to, like, okay, get things done. Now, the consequence in this case, walking the distance, is not a bad consequence,
All right.
because it's also good for me.
Serves
right?
you. Yeah.
So in that, what I just said, it's like it's a negative consequence with positive attributes on it. It helps
Oh,
you in that way. So
love
it's a
that.
double-edged sword.
And each one of them has its own little nugget of good inside that you can use to grow and expand. That's amazing, man. Thank you for dropping that. So, what do you feel then, Christiaan, makes a great coach?
Well, if I think about my own expertise, and this is the expertise without the labels.
Sure.
I like to push, to play, to dig around, to arouse a little bit, take by the hand, stand by and next, and also teach. And that's what I do with the clients, to develop tangible aspirations and come up with strategies and implement the behavioral structures, routines, and habits to get them where they want to be.
Sure.
So providing with that a little bit of motivation and inspiration that is necessary to kick off all the good stuff.
And a lot of accountability too.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
You got to hold them that. That's for sure. Love it.
So, and if you that's without the label, and if you say, okay, I slap a label on that, it's like that will be me as an instructor or a personal trainer, a coach, a father, a friend.
Gotcha. Yeah. So if you're kind of like meeting with somebody and they're like, oh man, I'm super interested in working with Christiaan, you might have like kind of a one-on-one kind of like talk with them. Is there any like secret sauce or something that you use to help them identify their initial blind spot, that they're really working against that?
Well, Scott, there's a couple of people that or behavior that I recognize. So you have people says like, I'm really interested in. Okay. Are you? That's the first question. Are you really?
Are you?
Why?
Right.
Why would you be interested in that? Like, it sucks, right? It's not always fun.
It's not.
Are you really interested? Right. Do you really want to? And where does this want come from? So if you establish a little bit the how and why, and you can go a little bit deeper on the questioning of that. What the difference is with me is like, okay, yeah, I want to be motivated. I want to be in great shape. I want to have a good body, right? In fitness stuff. Then yes, okay, that is all what everybody wants. There's no different than anybody else that I train. What makes it so different for you? Why do you really want it?
What's your why, right? Yeah.
Yeah, what's your why?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they develop a why because they were pushed by their wives. Like, hey, you need to do something. You get fat. Or because of pain, like the constant pain. Like, hey, I need to get over this. Or the effect that, hey, I ran behind my child and all of a sudden I was already tired before he got tired.
Right.
Like, I don't want this. So there's a lot of examples why people start to do things, but it doesn't mean they can hold on to that thought. So the moment that thought disappears, their motivation and want disappears too. Now, I always think that motivation is something that you need to be doing daily, like bathing.
Right. Yeah.
It accumulates. And so if I take the motivation away, is it still something that you want?
Right.
Like, right, without the motivation that you now have talking to me, and you come to a different level. Now, if people are not aware, and this is where it becomes interesting to me, people not really aware yet, like I want to work out, still like 30 years old, they can get away with a lot of things in their body. They can still drink bad stuff and eat bad stuff without having consequences yet.
Right.
So you don't think about it because there's no consequence.
Right.
Consequence again. So for me, it's like I poke and I tease and I play. It's like, hey, do you really think you can hold on to this? And let's go for a run. See how far you can run.
Okay.
It is challenge a little bit.
Yeah.
But also poke. Like, is it still going well with you? Or how do you feel about yourself? And if you go deeper with that, and depends who you have in front of you. I mean, if I always did this with my brothers, and they developed, I think, a certain tight skin or thicker skin in a way of like, not only like I can maintain myself against a certain force that tries to poke at me, try to get me where they want me to be, and I don't want to get there.
Right.
So it sets you more into your identity. So it all works together.
Gotcha.
Right? So if the more you poke, the more and the closer you come to a certain identity. And this is where you are feeling like people try to lash out, get angry, get emotional, or go internally, become quiet.
Yeah.
And this is where these are the tools or the behavior that you can do something with.
Yeah.
So this is where it starts. This is not where it stops.
Yeah.
Right. So, and a lot of people stop there. It's like, oh, he's now emotional. He's in pain, or he's angry. This is where it starts for me.
Yeah, that's excellent, dude. No, I love it that you said you're kind of playful with it. With it, I mean, some personalities might be like, "What the hell?" But I'm obviously, as coaches, we can adjust. But I love that you stick to your guns, if you will. That's an expression where you stick to what you're convicted about, to be playful at least at the start. And that's a beautiful thing. So if you start working with somebody, or you're about to start working, they're still making the decision. Is there any good question that you wish that they would ask you but never do? If I was, if you were talking to me and it become a client, what would you want me to ask you?
Right. Eventually, what does it entail? Yeah. What does it really entail?
Yeah. What do you expect of me?
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
That will be, I think,
exactly it, man. That's beautiful. So what do you feel your strengths are then when it comes into your coaching and your profession?
Right. My strengths, first of all, I'm relentless in playing. I play, and I had this when I was a child, and I think it comes from, if my mother's going to hear it, I don't know. She doesn't speak that English that well.
Okay.
So, but she's more controlling, and because of her control, it did something to my self-esteem, right? You always look out like, am I good enough? Am I doing it good enough? And with that, you try to establish your own control. And I did that by poking others, so I had control over them. And it was a negative attribute of me.
Yeah.
And eventually I understood what I was doing, and I tried to redo this in a positive way.
Sure.
And what changed that for me, that position, was when I was like 14, 15 years old, and I did this to my brother. And eventually I thought my brother could handle everything and anything. He started to cry. I was like, oh, this is what I want, right? This is ultimate control. This is exactly what I want them to be.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like, this is exactly what I don't want. This is not what I want. It makes me feel very bad, right?
Right.
So instead of it was feeling good, all of a sudden it was very bad. And this is where I had to make that change. But I'm relentless in that I go that far. I can go that far if I want to. And I think that's sometimes needed, especially with some clients. You need to be relentless.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm blessed to coach a billionaire, 3-comma guy. And I know it pushes his buttons, right? And I'll go there. I'll get
Right.
playful with them and playful. But when it's time to dig in, because what it does is it brings to the surface the shit that's really going on that we
Right.
need to work on, right?
Yeah.
So your playfulness is fantastic. I might use a little bit of that analogy in mine too. Thanks, bro. So I appreciate it. But let me ask you something. So your journey is very unique, okay? And have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay, let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly, right? Let's go back. You told me how old you are. Let's cut that in half. Let's go back to the double deuce, the 22-year-old, okay? What kind of knowledge, nuggets, your tips or advice would you drop on the 22-year-old Christiaan? Okay, not to change anything because your journey's been pretty awesome, okay? But to maybe shorten a learning curve a little bit, or maybe level up, blast through a little bit quicker. What
Yeah,
might
for
you tell
sure.
him?
I would say, first of all, read more
Okay,
and everything that is within your interest, because that gives you the ability to read more.
sure.
Um, if you do that, you will come into contact with the things that you don't know. And this is where you are comfortable, and where it's also a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you start to learn.
Right.
Now, if I was 20 years old right now, I will definitely make an effort to solve the problems of the minute I don't know and something of what I want to learn.
Right.
Because if I solve that problem by myself, first of all, I create momentum. I create the self-esteem and self-worth and self-confidence to go on and be stronger with solving problems in the meantime. But also what you create is a certain experience that in this economy, and maybe it's now becoming the creator economy,
Sure.
is that you can teach this and sell this as well. So more like, okay, I overcame this problem and let me show you how. And you can see it now with a lot of ChatGPT when it first came out.
Yeah.
I mean, a week later, a lot of people, they were already the teaching people in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Now, they probably did not know the full extent of ChatGPT at that time.
Right.
But they knew enough to get prompts out of it, and it worked well enough for them.
Sure.
So they can teach that. And I think that is more and more becoming important, because if you want to say like, I'm going to make a website, I don't know how to do it, then okay, first I would say like do a little course on internet, look somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that is the best thing I
It's like inch by inch, it's a cinch, right? Slow, like by the yard, it's hard. Everybody wants this now. It's like, it's one of my canned speeches is inch by inch, it's a cinch. It's like everybody, but you got to take the steps. And most important, you got to take the first step, right? And get it done. So Christiaan, how do you want, I like to ask my client or my interviewees, how do you want your dash remembered? Like that little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and your death date. If you ever look at a tombstone, it says the year you were born, the year you died, and there's a little dash. There's a lot that happens in that dash. Okay.
Yes.
How do you want your dash remembered?
I think something like he played, he tried, and he persisted.
He played, he tried, and he changed lives.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I can just hear, I can hear the genuine in you, right? It's like you're not afraid to push the buttons, but you don't want to make them feel terrible about it. But at the same time, you want to challenge them. And that's such a fine line as coaches that we have to walk sometimes. I've been fired. I've tried to push buttons. And frankly, in full disclosure, I fired clients too that wouldn't like do it, or I referred them to somebody else, which is great about this podcast. We'll be interviewing 400 coaches. I can refer some to anybody anytime, right? But yeah, I love that line that you walk and you're not afraid. Like the courage that it takes to do things from a playful point of view is big, bro. That's big.
Right. And it's, for me, it's also, if you say you stop sometimes at like, I don't want to hurt someone.
Yeah.
Unless it's effective, right? If it is effective, then I will do that.
Right.
But I think it's effective at a certain point, and I will go there.
Yeah.
And I had a little experience when I was 15 years old. It was one of my first jobs, probably my third one at the time. But I had to wash a certain, I said not the cars, but the people that were in the workshop. I had to clean that up, tighten up, and wash the floor and everything. And I was hired by a person that I knew from soccer, playing soccer. And he says like, oh yeah, I got a job for you. You go over there, wash this thing and be done. And you earn this much. Okay, I will do this. And one day when I was working, the boss of the car company at the time, it was for Opel. And that's not a big brand here, but it's a brand in Europe. He came, parked his car in the middle of the garage door, and he says, wash my car. And I was like, all right, no. And he said, no. I said, no, I'm not hired to do that. I'm going to wash the workshop over here, but I'm not going to wash your car.
Right.
I'm not here to do that. So you're going to do that now, otherwise I'm going to fire you. I said, you have no say-so in the matter. You didn't hire me, so why should I listen to you?
Right.
So that is that little, maybe a little bit of bravado that you need to have to, first of all, establish the situation. Hey, give yourself time to negotiate.
Right.
Because if you don't have that, then you just follow the cue of someone else.
Right.
So giving you the time a little bit, and also come with a counter action.
We call it growing balls. Getting the balls. Make sure you're not disrespectful, but stand up for yourself. Right.
Right.
I mean, that's That you weren't
very difficult, because you say not disrespectful, because in the eyes of someone else, you are already disrespectful.
Right. 100%. You're 100% right. It's a fine line. But if there was a third party, somebody else there, then they would see it and be like, no, the boss is wrong, or that dude's wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's like everybody's ego gets involved and stuff like that. And no, but I'm happy that you have conviction, man. That's huge.
Right. What I try to say is that it's so difficult to have conviction, because where does it come from? And for me, it was the type of the monster that I can be, that I control. So I know that if it comes to shove, I have no problems to grab you by ear or flick you in the face. Like, hey, calm down.
Relax.
Otherwise, this is going to be worse for you.
Right.
And if you have that background of like, hey, I can manage myself no matter what circumstances you put on me. If you have that, because you need a little bit of that. And if you're a little bit more having self-esteem problems and everything else, self-worth problems, you cannot go to that stage. You're not willing to make someone else upset, or even say, be disrespectful. I mean, you give respect to people that deserve it, not to ones like, hey, wash my car.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my respect level instantly dropped.
100%. I respect everybody. That's the one thing that I'm 6'1", I'm 230. I'm pretty well put together. I told you a little bit about my, I told you a little bit about my background earlier, and it's like, I will respect everybody, but brother, I expect the exact same in return. Not to say that I'm the toughest dude or whatever, but it's just like, just don't, and respect other people. I have a hard time watching other people get disrespected. It bothers me, and I might even speak out, and there's consequences to that sometimes. Right. But let me ask you something. What do you think people might misunderstand the most about you, Christiaan?
Well, if you take things in very black-white scope, then instantly I get misunderstood very quickly.
Yeah. Well, it's the disconnect between our different humors, our different ways we talk, just ethical or culturally, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been seen very blunt and straight to the point, and that's Dutch, right? And even my friends say, like, you're blunt for Dutch norms. That might be so. Right. But I think if you are very black and white thinking, and you are adhere to a certain identity that you have, and you cannot let that go because you feel attacked. And I think it's more of a certain survival basic instinct, because in our survival instinct, we reproduce. So we have children. But also you can reproduce on a metaphysical level. And that is like, we share our ideas. That's how I reproduce. So the more that you listen to me, the more I'm reproducing myself into you. And that is very important, because if someone has that identity and is very strict with it, black and white, he doesn't let themselves grow or reproduce from someone else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the case. And if they're not aware of it, then I'm looked like in the strange and the weird one.
Yeah.
Well, I think like, okay, there is no growth there, so it doesn't matter to me. But
I love I love that you talk about growth because we are the only species on the planet that does not grow to our capability. Only species. A tree will grow as high as the roots are deep, right? Any you look at any living animal, people will say, well, your dog's fat, but if the human wasn't fat, the dog wouldn't be fat. I'm saying the dog would want to run and be a dog, a monkey be a monkey. As humans, we stop our growth through programming, right? And how we're taught, and like how your mom was kind of with you and how my dad was with me. It's like we took a different path with our growth mindset to adapt, to overcome, to try new things, understand that there's consequences to both things. I think that's why you and I really jive a lot in our coaching philosophies with that, man.
Okay.
I love that, Christian. So I have to ask you, what is your definition of a life well lived?
I think, and that's something that I write in my book, is like to obey your best self. And that's I think the basic of discipline. In this case, self-discipline, because discipline can lay outside of yourself. So
Yep.
I'm going to the self-discipline part of it. I think, that.
I love that, man. To obey your best self. That's strong because again, as humans, we don't grow into our best self. If we can find that, we can obey it. And so many people,
Right.
I don't know if you agree with this. I think you would, but so many people obey the little version of themselves instead of what it actually can be. Do you agree?
Right. Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that way it's like eventually you don't matter anymore. And
Exactly.
if it is, because you don't matter for yourself, right? It doesn't matter for you
Thank you.
enough.
Perfect.
So you don't matter in a general
Yeah.
sense of things.
Yeah.
And well, everybody will be crossing the line. Well, you're still behind because you not put emphasis on like your self-worth and self-love.
You don't
and
value yourself, dude.
Right.
I see so many of like some of my clients. I'm blessed to coach professional athletes, and sometimes they value things that don't serve them. Like instead of putting extra reps into something, they might value that video game more. And again, I'm not judging them. I just ask them, is this going to get you to this? And then I'll ask it enough that their value goes up and say, look, I value my time more to go take extra reps instead of doing this. But I also understand at their level, they have to have their downtime. But there's certain times that they run into slumps or that they're not performing at their ultimate potential, that sometimes you just have to get back to the basics, and their basics was the reps that they put in, right? So we get them back to the reps and they start valuing their best. Thank you for putting it that way, to obey your best self. That's awesome. And go ahead, brother, please.
Yeah, because you say some words that I familiarize myself with. It's like, first of all, let's come back to the discipline, self-discipline, because I think we are educated in that way, trained that way, to focus on obeying societal norms and regulations, and instead of focusing on following a set of values and rules that you set for yourself. I mean, that is not like really the norm. So, and judgment, because that's the word that you said, judgment is a very good thing to have, because from judgment, you can start to understand each other. The difference that I'm using is not being judgmental.
Yes.
Thank you. Little bit difference if you're not aware, because I say that sometimes and people say like, oh, you're judgmental. No,
you're judging me. Yeah.
I have to, right? It's heuristics.
In a sense, yeah.
So
but
I have to
I've been told
judgment.
that too, brother. I say, you might think I'm judging you, but I'm loving you. Because I know that your best self isn't here, or else you would not be paying me what you're paying me. Okay. Right. Sorry, but it's the truth. And that you're not following your rules or the values that could be there for yourself. And they kind of switch them off the judgment path, because they're like, oh, you're judging me. That's why in my coaching, I never use the word why, unless it has to be used. Like I would not say, hey, Christiaan, why did you do this? Because it sounds like I'm judging them. But I'll flip it to say, what were you thinking in this situation that this was the outcome? You know what I'm saying? And so they get it. So I've been better at that in 14 years. It took me to not use why too much, but that's awesome.
That's a very interesting point you say, because I sometimes deliberately do that. And I says like, what's wrong with you? you're
Yeah.
stupid, and not because
Yeah.
just no, I don't think they're stupid at all.
No,
But
no, no. I know you don't. Yeah.
a reaction, right? To get a reaction, because where is your self-worth? Where is your self-love? Because if you don't have
Yeah.
that self-esteem, you will not revolt to those words. You should be revolting. Like I'm calling you stupid right now, right?
Yeah.
You should, something needs to come back from you.
Yeah, dude, I
Because
love
then
that
I
button.
know where you
Dude,
are.
that button push right there. One, it's ballsy is all hell. I'll tell you that. But you're coming from a place of love, bro. You're not coming from a
Right.
place of judgment. I do remind them when I go down that path with clients, I'll be like, listen, man, this comes from a place of love, brother. Your mindset right now is wrapped around you feel I'm judging you, but I'm not. I'm loving on you right now. And I love your gut so much that I have to ask this.
Right.
And just please work with me here. Throw me a bone is another American thing we might say.
Right. I think
So,
it's really, it's resolving the clash of the wants or wills from within.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we always have to, it's about the do or die, the
Sure.
action or the distraction or the surviving or the thriving or the creating and the destroying. It's always that. And if you can't see that anymore, I mean, because you are so in the comfortable position that allows you to be like, okay, oh, I don't need to be doing this. Then yes, it's not about getting you somewhere anymore because you don't have set the proper goals. What is your goal during the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's so simple as that.
It is. It can, like, as a coach, if we can just dumb things down, another term to use for them to their language. And again, like, so like high level people will talk about ideas. Like you and I might talk about, okay, what can we do to level up people? Kind of mediocre people, they talk about events, like what's going on around them. Low level people or losers talk about other people. And it's generally when they're not there. And those are the people that people listen to the most. Does that make sense? Like people will listen to that person the most because it matches kind of what they grew up with. It matches their past. And you and I are there trying to help them lean into their ultimate human potential and to turn off that noise in a sense. And I love the way that you're playful about it. I'm going to actually probably start being more playful, or Christiaan, I'm going to actually call it being playful. And I'll be like, I'm blaming it on one of my coach buddies. You know what I'm saying? But we do have to move on, brother. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. We are back. And Christiaan, one of these trips, I'm in Texas a lot. So I'm going to definitely meet up with you, at least for lunch or a coffee, or maybe you'll talk me into coming out and training with you, which please don't. I'm kidding. No, actually I will. I promise.
All right.
But we'll talk about some of these questions for 10, 15 minutes each. But today, you got 5 seconds to answer them.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. And they can all be answered that way, brother. I promise you. Okay. Just answer the question. Don't give explanations. That's the easiest way I can say it. Okay. I promise you they can all be answered that way. You ready to level up?
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm very known for saying like, if this or if this isn't like this. So
I'll just
I hope I can be very good.
Hey, listen, you used the B word earlier. You remember what that was?
No.
Blunt. So just be blunt with your answers. All right, brother? Here we go.
Okay, sorry.
Christiaan, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Read more.
Yes. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Working out on my lofty goals every day and listen to a podcast and read.
Hell yeah. Love it. So you see me kind of walking down the street and you're like, oh man, or maybe at a networking event or something. And you're like, man, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. Other than your book, which we'll get to in a little bit, what book might you hand me that maybe like shifted your mind a little bit?
Oh, that's a couple of, but the latest one, I guess, is called Positive Thinking, Having a Positive Thinking Mindset by Phoenix Bloom.
Love it. Love it. Donnie, put that in the show notes, please. Awesome. Do you have a most commonly used emoji when you text?
Probably fist.
Fist, love it. Love it. Nicknames growing up?
Didn't tolerate them.
No? Okay. Gotcha. Do you have any hidden talent and or superpower that you have that nobody knows about until now?
No, I don't think.
Let's
I think I said already, like, my talent is really like be a teaser.
I got you. Headline for your life.
Um, uh, that's a good one. Yeah, I always go back to work hard and smarter
Yeah.
and recreate.
I love that's awesome. That's legit. Go to ice cream flavor.
Whiskey.
Nice, nice. No one's ever said that. There's a sandwich called the Christiaan. Build that sandwich for me. What's on that sandwich?
Yeah, that's a normal, a regular sandwich with bread, and then we put butter on it, and then hagelslag.
What's that? I'm going to give you time on this. You just said a word I have no idea. So what is that?
Yeah, that's chocolate sprinkles, but real chocolate. It's not the sprinkles that you can buy in America.
Yeah, like is it bitter chocolate or is it semi-sweet or?
Yeah, you can have a bitter. You can add the milk chocolate. So
cool.
That's
awesome.
Always the thing.
Awesome. Favorite? Do you have any charity and/or organization you like to give your time and/or money to?
Looking at hard organizations. So
okay, very good. I know you donated to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, so thank you for that, brother.
Yeah,
really a lot. And last question: what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
I love Elvis Presley, so around that 60s, 70s area.
Nice, nice. My mom got to meet Elvis. She has a picture. I'll text you a picture. Yeah, it's when he was getting to be fat Elvis, but yeah, it's great music, dude. It's what's funny is in Vegas, like you told me the story off mic about your friend. There's an Elvis impersonator. If you go to Vegas, there's a show called Legends, right?
Yes.
And it has the Elvis guy up there, and they have the Elvis from young days, medium days, and his fat days. Dude, the women in the audience that are older than us, okay?
I can tell you stories about this.
They cry, dude. Yeah. I'm sure your friend dealt with it, or not dealt with it, got to experience that. But they're like, like that shit, dude. Yeah.
We had groupies of 60 and 70 years old of women coming to our hotel door at that time. So
wow.
I know how it is, how crazy it is. It's real. It's real.
Well, you told me where you met your wife. She's not one of them, is she? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, dude. I'm totally messing with you.
She's a little bit younger than 15.
I'm just messing with you, dude. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Christiaan, how can we find you, my friend?
On our website, sportnaturel.com.
And that's a squad. It's spelled SPORTNATUREL.com. It'll be in the show notes as well. So we can find you there.
Yes. Of course, on LinkedIn, Facebook.
Okay.
But I have. Yeah, I'm trying to do Pinterest, but it's not like, I think I'm not sitting well with it yet. Maybe I will grow into it later.
Good deal. Yeah, make sure you do. I get a little bit off of Pinterest. I also get a lot more off of Substack now. I don't know if you've heard of Substack. It's kind of a new platform, but it's for people like us that like to put out good content. And I'm going to take a note right now just to send it over to you. You don't have to write it down.
That is awesome.
Yeah. All right. And your book, my man. In the book, in Scott, I full disclosure, I've only read the first chapter, but I love parables. I love stories. I love fables. And that's what my guy, Christiaan, writes here. It's called To Meet Yourself, Think for Yourself. Love the cover. It's awesome. Tell us a little bit about it, man.
Yeah, it was a long time in the making. I did 6 years really research on a lot of topics, and then 2 years of writing it generally. Because of course I'm Dutch. I lived there for 36 years. So to write in another language is always a little bit.
You did good, brother. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
dude.
You.
No, I like it a lot.
It took me a little bit to get that all constructed.
But I have to ask you, is it Sion or is it pronounced Chan, or like how's it pronounced?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a Kian.
Kian. Okay, because Squad, it's spelled the one of the main characters. His name is spelled Cian, and now that I know it's Kian, that's what when I'm reading, I'll be able to know that.
Yeah.
So again, I was saying Sion. Which Americans, that's the way we're kind of. Okay, cool. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go on.
No, that's good. My editor actually cut that out because I explained it's pronounced Siam. She says, no, don't do that. I said, all right, just let them in their own world.
Yeah. I got you.
You didn't want to break the fourth wall, how they say it.
Right. Yeah.
All right, won't do it. So Christiaan, the Hudson, that's the last name. That's actually the name of my son. My son is Hudson.
Oh,
So
okay.
I put that in there. There's a lot of things in that. If you look at the, how do you say that? We call it inhoudsopgave. Uh, how do you call it now? Lost it. But where you see where every chapter is.
Okay. The index?
Yeah, the index. If you
Okay.
look at the index, it's really, if you take every first letter of every subject, then it forms a certain sentence. So
Really?
that's a little
Okay.
neat thing in there. There's a couple of more things in there, but it's
Okay.
just about I'm going to do a video one day about the book and explain all
Oh,
these
please do, man.
things.
Yeah, please, 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 please do, man. Because I will because I've already I got a flight. I'm gonna probably have it read by the time I get to where I'm going tonight. But I'm gonna share the screen. So you're saying that, let me see
Mhm.
here. This is kind of each one of them kind of spells something. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
that's with the, I guess.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay, I see. Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward because again, I love stories that have lessons, parables, if you
right.
will. And
Uh,
it's like again, that first chapter it blasted through actually this morning. I ain't gonna lie to you. Blasted through it this morning. And it was entertaining. And I love to read stories when I'm flying. You know what I'm saying?
cool.
So
Yeah.
and
So the story is related to all the things that I've been through. So
okay.
it's kind of it was first a memoir and then I changed it up because my coach said, unless your name is Elvis Presley or President something, something,
Sure.
nobody's going to read your memoir.
Right.
And I think, okay, yeah, that's probably true.
Dude.
So I added a fictional person, and that's Sifu Fong. Sifu Fong is a fictional person,
Okay.
and a lot of things in there. Besides that,
Sure.
it's a real thing. But
No, I love
yeah,
that you did that because I did the same thing with mine where it's a hero's journey,
mm,
right? Kind of something like that, where something I'm very familiar with within the real estate world. He kind of loses it, but then he's introduced to five different people for those five different disciplines or knowledge nuggets that he picks up, and those
right.
and what it is a homage to people even like you, because I picked up a nugget from you today that it's an homage to those people that I have that allows me to lean into others and help them level up, right? That's what the whole book's about.
Going to
And
read
I'm
it.
thinking that a lot of yours is too the lessons that you've learned from others and the stuff you've picked up along the way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. In squad, I am going to send out two copies. I'm going to do two copies for the first person that puts in any of our social. I don't care if it's LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, our Instagram page, Facebook page, any of it. First one that puts Hudson. And that looks say Hudson's dad. First one that puts Hudson's dad in there, I will send out a free copy on Time to Shine Today's Dime and get that out to you. So, and if not, it's very, very affordable. I'm a Kindle guy mainly. It's very affordable on Kindle. It's $9. Go pick it up. And if you would like it on Kindle instead, let me know, and I'll be happy to email it to you through Kindle. So, but this was super fun, man. If you could do me one last solid and leave us with one last knowledge nugget, something that we can internalize, take action on, and get going with.
Yeah, when you are comfortable with the understanding that you never will fully understand where you come from, why you are here, and where you are going, well, fear will lose its strength.
Oh, dude. So it's where you come from, why you are here, and where you are going.
Yes.
The fear will
You
lose
are,
its strength.
if you are comfortable with that understanding, that you will never fully understand that,
Dude,
then fear will lose its
that
strength.
is badass, dude. That's amazing. And squad, I just had a super fun conversation with my good friend Christiaan, who he likes to immerse himself in different cultures. He likes to learn. He likes to get out there in experiences. He loves to challenge himself. To him, trust is paramount. Trust is very important to him. And he also realizes that he taught us that consequences can have good actions or good consequences and bad consequences. And for us to be able to grow, we must become uncomfortable, because inside us is that seed. And if that gestation period of that seed, like if you throw an acorn on the ground, squad, an oak tree doesn't pop up. If that was the case, there's tens of thousands of acorns on the ground. The one that gets watered, the one that gets the right sunlight, the one that gets the right food is the one that is going to grow. And that's what somebody like my good friend Christiaan does. He helps you grow. And he does it in a playful manner. but I also see him listening intently. He doesn't just listen with his ears. He listens with all his senses, which I call listening with your neck. He really leans in. He really wants to get to know you and to see the path that we are going to go on together, right? And he said about motivation, if you take motivation away, is that still what you want? That hit home with me. That if you take the motivation out of it, is it still what you want? And that's really a choice that you're going to have to make to lean into. He's relentless, again, in playing. He used to overcompensate the playing, but now he finds a way to use his playing as a servant to really lean in and to help you. And he's going to remember somebody that played, that changed lives. He's going to slide across home plate, bumped and bruised, but he knows he's going to change your life if you really work with him. And no matter where you come from, why you are here, or where you are going, lose the fear. Dude, we can come to whatever we want, especially if you let me introduce you to a good friend and coach, Christiaan, who levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. He's so fun, so well-spoken. Thank you for coming on, brother. I absolutely love your guts.
Thank you very much. And I got one more for your audience. It's a question. If you are not your thought, like, then who is?
Love it.
If not your thoughts, then who is?
Then who is?
That's what I ask myself.
That's awesome, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, and great summarization of me.
Got you, brother. Chat soon.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today, proudly brought to you by Inlet Properties and Investments. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on the Time to Shine Today podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you'd like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also, there you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have been listening to, it'd be great if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's your time to shine.